Secondly, I would like to start saying that I'm sure that I will express the feelings of all of you, saying that our thoughts are this evening with Jonathan Pollard, that with incredibly cruelty was neglected the most basic human right of participating in his father's funeral. He is tortured. The point I will try to make during my presentation is that Israeli sovereignty over all of Western Eretz Israel, from the Mediterranean to the Jordan, is the just solution to the conflict, is the vital solution to the conflict, and is a feasible solution to the conflict. But moreover, I will try to prove, as with my academic background, I will try to mathematically prove that it is the only just solution, the only vital solution, and the only feasible solution to the conflict in the Middle East. Let's start with justice. I believe that justice is imperative. A solution that is not based on justice will not hold, it's not stable. For all of us, it's very clear, for all of us Zionists, it's very clear that Eretz Israel is our land, and therefore Jewish sovereignty over Eretz Israel is the just solution. But also for a person that believes that there is, even for a person that believes, that honestly believes, that there is another ethnic group that has the same rights over this patch of land, even for that honest person, he must admit that Jewish sovereignty over Yehuda v'Shomron, over all of Eretz Israel, is the just solution. Why? Because apparently, if there is a dispute, the just solution should be partition. If two persons have equal rights, I don't think that there are two ethnic groups with equal rights. I believe that only we have a valid right over this land. But suppose that you are a stranger that believes that there are two ethnic groups that have equal rights over Eretz Israel. Even that person, if he is honest, has to admit that if one part accepts partition, time and again, in the 30s of the last century, in 1947, when Israelis or Jews in this country went out to the squares of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and Haifa to dance in the squares, when they were granted a country with distorted, impossible boundaries, and the other party attacked. And in 1967, when an attempt was made explicitly to annihilate Israel, and again in the year 2000, Barack Arafat Clinton, and again in 2008, Olmert Abbas, if one party accepts time and again the partition, and the other rejects it, and states that the rules of the game are winner takes all, like they did in 1967, then in that case, partition is not the just solution. Partition is an injustice. More than that, my proposition is that the fact that in 1967, I must tell you that 1967, May 1967, June 1967, when I was a 11 years old child in a Zionist house in Zionist home in Buenos Aires, Argentina, is my formative political experience. I remember the agony those days when Israel was imminently in an imminent danger of being annihilated on merely 22 years after the Holocaust. And I remember the joy and the relief a few days later. But if the aggressor decides by himself that the rule of the game is, as I said, the winner takes all, the winner by force takes all. If he wins, then Israel disappears. And if he loses, then we go back to square one like nothing happened. That is morally flawed. That is an injustice. Therefore, even if you are not a Zionist, even if you are not a person that believes in the undisputed, a more easy word, and in the undisputed right of the Jewish people of the land of Israel, in its God-given right, even if you are not, then you have to admit that in the circumstances, under the circumstances of the current conflict between Israelis, between Jews and Arabs, the only just solution is that the party that was the victim of an aggression, that the party that once, time and again, accepted a compromise, a very painful compromise, by the way, a compromise I personally would have opposed in 47, in the 30s, I opposed in 2000, but the establishment, the country, the official authorities accepted, even proposed, and the other party rejected. That completely cancelled the validity of the partition as a just solution. All other solutions, 2 states, 1 state with equal citizenship rights, all those solutions, given the antecedents, given the moral and political choices the Arab world did and the Palestinian made, are morally wrong. The only just solution to the conflict, as advocated by the United Nations, 242 talks about a just solution. The only just solution is Jewish sovereignty from the Mediterranean to the Jordan. Jewish sovereignty from the Mediterranean to the Jordan is also the only solution that is vital to the existence of the State of Israel. On 2 counts. The obvious from a security point of view. Prime Minister Netanyahu said in Congress and even in the Oval Office, after his last meeting with President Obama, that the 1967 borders, the 1967 lines, to be accurate, are not defensible. Well, he was right, of course. They are not defensible. But we have to remember that the so-called settlement blocks do not add security. They add Jewish population, but they do not add security. In order to defend, to make the borders of Israel defensible from the West, we need to control the whole area from the from the Green Line, the so-called Green Line, to the hills, to the summit of the hills of Judea and Samaria. Otherwise, all the metropolitan centers of Israel will be at the mercy of the most extreme Arab terrorists. You cannot defend Tel Aviv from rockets unless you control the summit. You cannot defend the Ben Gurion Airport from being paralyzed on a daily basis if you do not control the summit of the hills of Judea and Samaria. But that is only one part of the equation. in order to prevent a situation that is much more serious than a rocket, or a Qassam, or a Grad, or a Katyusha, in order to prevent the situation that there is an extremist Muslim continuum from Kabul in Afghanistan and Islamabad in Pakistan up to Kfar Saba in Jerusalem, or I would say the only thing that buffers, to prevent the situation in which the only thing that buffers from the Muslim world from Kabul and Islamabad to Kfar Saba is a fence that is inconceivable, you need again from the east the Jordan Valley, and the summit of the mountains of Judea and Samaria. So what you have got here, in order to defend Israel, you need from the west the area from the Green Line to the summit of the mountains of Judea and Samaria, from the northern Samaria to the southern hills of Hebron. And from the east, in order to defend it from the Muslim world, you need from the Jordan to the same summits. So in order to defend Israel, there is no room for a Palestinian state at all. The two lines from the east and from the west coincide on the summit of the hills of Judah and Shomron. But Jewish sovereignty over Yehuda and Shomron, over all of Eretz Israel, Western Eretz Israel, is vital for Israel, also from a Jewish point of view. One of the most absurd one of the most absurd things I hear in the Israeli political discourse, quoted even by President Obama, is that in order to safeguard the Jewish nature of Israel, we have to give up Yehuda v'Shomron. That's like saying that in order to, I don't know, to have lights, we have to shut the electricity. Israel will lose its spiritual essence. Israel will become a shallow society if we give up voluntarily Hebron and Shiloh and Bethel and parts of Jerusalem. You cannot maintain. We will have to educate our children that Shiloh and Bethel and Hebron are foreign sites. You cannot maintain a Jewish state, a Jewish society, a Jewish culture if you betray Hebron. You cannot maintain a Jewish society if you betray Bethel. That's so simple that I think it does not need explanation. Therefore, as we saw, Jewish sovereignty over all of Eretz Israel, Amaravit, all of Western Eretz Israel, is the only just solution to the conflict, and is the only vital solution to the conflict. Any other solution would endanger the very existence of the state of Israel, physical and spiritual, Jewish existence of Israel. And then we come to the question of feasibility. Is that a realistic solution to the conflict? Well, yes, it is. No doubt it is. It is a feasible solution because the most important thing needed in order to make it real, in order to make it happen, is our determination. Our determination. If we are determined enough, if we believe enough, if we are self-confident enough, we can make it happen. we will need to bring to make sure that there are 1 million Jews in Judea and Samaria, and then it will be completely, totally impossible to go back. It is possible. We are now in Judea and Shomron 350,000. If we include the eastern neighborhoods of Jerusalem, we are 650,000. We are the district of the district in the categorization of the Ministry of Interior. We are the district that grows for the highest rate, more than 5% per year, compared to 2% in Israel, on average in Israel. We can make it happen if we are determined enough. The good news is we currently are building a very large number of housing units in Judea and Samaria. Keep it secret. And the last thing I would like to say is that a nice surprise I had a few days ago. I would like to share with you. A few days ago, I received an email from a person named Alan Clemens. I had never heard his name. I feared it was junk mail, but I'm happy I read the mail. He wrote to me, Mr. Dayan, as a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, it is my pleasure and honor to forward you a link to a resolution below, which was unanimously passed, Democrats and Republicans alike, in the House of Representatives of South Carolina, honoring Israel and her God-given right of self-governance, self-defense, and expressing our support for a united Israel. I attach the resolution below. As an advocate for Israel and the work of the Yesha Council, please know that I have great respect and admiration for you and your letters. Now I would like, with your permission, to read the whole resolution. I think it's enlightening. It is enlightening because I doubt if it could have been passed, surely not unanimously, in the Israeli Knesset. And it shows that we have much more of international support than we are being said. That people with bad faith are trying to convince us we are isolated and we do not have international support. Well, you know, one United States of America, it's worth, I believe, its support 100 Pakistans. Now here, what a House of Representatives of one of the states of the United States of America resolves. A House resolution to commend the nation of Israel for its relations with the United States of America and with the state of South Carolina. Whereas Israel has been granted her lands and under and through the oldest recorded deed as reported in the Old Testament, a tome of scripture held sacred and reverenced by Jews and Christians alike as the acts and words of God. And whereas, as the grantor of the said lands, God stated to the Jewish people in the Old Testament, in Leviticus chapter 20, verse 24, "You shall inherit their land, and will give unto you to possess it, a land that floweth with milk and honey." I remind you, this is an official resolution of the House of Representatives of the state of South Carolina, passed unanimously. And whereas God has never rescinded his grant of said lands, and whereas, along with the grant of said lands to the Jewish people, God provided for the non-Jewish residents of the land in commanding that the governments must be in one law for all without drawing distinctions between Jewish and non-Jewish citizens, as contained in Leviticus 24:22. And whereas the nation of Israel declared its independent control and governance of said lands on May 14, 1948, with the goal of re-establishing their God-given lands as a homeland for the Jewish people. And whereas the United States of America, having been the first country to recognize Israel as an independent nation and as Israel's principal ally, has enjoyed a close and mutually beneficial relationship with Israel and her people, and whereas indeed Israel is the United States of America's greatest friend in the Middle East, and whereas the roots of Israel and the roots of the United States of America are so intertwined that it is difficult to separate one from the other under the word of protection of Almighty God. And whereas there are those in the Middle East who have sought to destroy Israel from its inception as a nation, and whereas those same haters of Israel also hate and seek to destroy the United States of America, and whereas the state of South Carolina and the nation of Israel have enjoyed cordial and mutually beneficial relations since 1948, a friendship that continues to strengthen with each passing year, now therefore be it resolved by the House of Representatives of the state of South Carolina, not by the Knesset, that the members of the South Carolina House of Representatives by this resolution commend the nation of Israel for its relations with the United States of America, with the states of South Carolina, and now here, listen attentively. Be it further resolved that the members of this body support Israel in their natural and God-given right of self-governance and self-defense upon their own lands, recognizing that Israel is neither an attacking force nor an occupier of the lands of others, and that peace can be afforded the region only through a united Israel. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Speaker of the House of Representatives of each of South Carolina sister states, with the request and recommendation of this body that a similar resolution to that stated herein be proposed within their respective bodies. Now I ask you, when we see the kind of support we have with the honest persons in this world, is really the solution we are proposing not feasible? It is. We only need the same determination, the same faith, the same courage that these gentlemen and women of South Carolina had. It's a pity that we have to take their example, but we know the situation here. We know that the well-orchestrated defamation and weakening, a campaign to weaken Israel is taking place, initiated, motivated by people in this very country, so-called intellectuals. Let's take control again of our faith. Let's recognize that Western Eretz Israel is our country, was our country, is our country, and will be our country forever. Thank you.